The burning field had now separated the two of them. Elvira also became unable to take her potions. Their core power was in her being the head of the alchemy faculty, but the most crucial weakness of the alchemy faculty was, without relying on magic tools or potions, their direct combat ability was almost non-existent. Usually, alchemy faculty members wear emergency magic tools in the form of rings or necklaces to be on guard, but she disdains carrying such things. She feels that geniuses don't seem to need such things, because it is also troublesome. She also wondered, could it be? That guy has thought so far. He deliberately caused the candles to fall, and created a wall of fire shortly after, to target her bag, but she immediately denied her guess, because she thought he should be targeting the main bag, not the rope. Then, she also didn't think he could think that far, because he was just a mere Ed Rothtailor. He then took out a blue pearl-like object. He still had a card that he hadn't taken out. He then slammed the pearl on the floor, which then turned it into a winged rabbit. She then drew a magic circle on the rabbit's back, applying fire resistance and berserk. Then, reinforced, right after that, the rabbit's size suddenly grew to more than twice her body size. While Elvira was taking out her card to get out of the situation, Isla was still worried about the situation that befell them. She then cast a spell to extinguish the fire, but a wind blade suddenly attacked towards her, which also destroyed the spell she cast. Isla could only frantically scream seeing that, but fortunately, the wind blade was immediately parried by Taylor before it could hit her. Taylor then worriedly asked her to hold on. Isla immediately broke out in a cold sweat because she felt that she was about to meet her death. Isla was indeed confident in her knowledge of magic, but her combat ability was only average even among first-year students who had just learned basic magic. With Ed blatantly targeting Isla, he couldn't even get close to him. Not only that, he and Isla even became difficult to even move. Elvira then suddenly called him and asked, "You can beat him if we shorten the distance to him, right?" Taylor was then confused when he heard the question. But Elvira didn't explain it directly and ordered her summoned rabbit to immediately attack towards Ed. Seeing that, Taylor then replied, "It's not about whether he can or not, he has to do it." Elvira liked his enthusiasm. She then protected herself with a cloak and immediately lunged towards the flames. Isla then felt worried for her when she saw it, even though it made her cloak burn. But it made her able to get to where her potions fell earlier. She was very happy because she could meet her favorite potions again. As for Ed, when he saw the big rabbit coming towards him, he then once again cast Wind Blade, but his target was not the rabbit, but Elvira, who was currently busy picking up her potions. He then threw his attack at her, but there was no panic on Elvira's face when she saw it. She just thought it seemed that Ed had made a little preparation, but he was late. She then used the reinforcement release magic on her potion, then threw it towards the wind blade. It was a special potion made by mixing the night butterfly flower and gal mushroom, and when mixed using the reinforcement release magic formula, an explosion would occur and have a suppressed emission magic power, and temporarily subdues the products that result from magic formulas. The effect of the explosion even scorched the surrounding area. Elvira then silently asked him, did he know what she meant? A magician who could not use magic anymore. Ed managed to defend himself from the explosion using the big rabbit's body, which he used as a shield, which made it look like he was still okay and came out unscathed. But Elvira just scoffed at that because she felt he was just acting like he was okay. He now couldn't use magic anymore. While they had a fighter on their side, she then told Taylor to attack him immediately. Taylor then immediately rushed forward, but Ed seemed to run when he saw it. Taylor then asked if he was running away. Ed certainly didn't just run away. He then picked up a wooden block nearby, and threw it down to block his path. It also caused the bucket of oil to spill onto the floor. The oil then flowed onto the floor, and when the oil met the fire, a spark then occurred, and the smoldering fire then burned the surrounding area. Based on the smell, Taylor realized that this was oil. Elvira then asked him if he was crazy. They were in the Awfulest Hall. If the fire spread to the corridor, it would definitely cause an accident, and Taylor was still not afraid when he saw it. Whether it was a fire made by magic or a fire spread by oil, he could cut through it all with his elemental slash, since the effect of this reagent wouldn't last more than a few minutes, so before anyone got hurt, he would end it. Seeing him desperately rushing forward, Elvira then worriedly asked him to stop. The window was opened wide enough for all the smoke to escape, and he had removed all the carpets that could catch fire. He also moved everything that was flammable. Based on all that, she knew, Ed had planned everything even here. Ed then took out a bow, Seeing that, Elvira then frantically once again tried to stop Taylor, who rushed forward. But it was in vain. Ed then drew his bow towards Taylor, who rushed towards him, although he was surprised Ed could use a crossbow. But Taylor was confident he could stop it, but he was then surprised, because the target of Ed's shot was not him, but Isla, who was behind him. Seeing an arrow attacking towards her, Isla then immediately frantically tried to stop it, but she could not even use basic defense magic at the moment, because the effect of Elvira's magic formula was still there. Taylor was then very anxious to see that. And in the midst of the anxiety that engulfed them, the arrow suddenly stopped right in front of Isla. The arrow seemed to be held back by some kind of energy ball. The energy ball turned out to come from Elvira, who was using a round-shaped item that released electricity around it. She sighed in relief because it was almost. The item she used was called Claw Hand, a magic machine tool that can release power to pull small objects from afar as long as they are still within sight. But Elvira was then surprised when she carefully looked at the arrow again. She was surprised because the arrow did not have an arrowhead, but instead was wrapped in cloth. She then realized that Ed was still holding back. She then immediately told Taylor to be careful. She was sure Ed must have other tricks that he had not used, but her warning ended in vain, because Taylor did not listen at all. He then attacked Ed using his sword, but his attack could still be resisted by Ed. Ed suddenly heard a noise. Based on the noise, he knew it came from the second floor. He also asked, "Is it time already?" The voice came from Clebius. He anxiously said, "If we stay still, we will all die." The last chapter of Act 2, the Awfulest Hall Mastery Incident, the second floor boss. Wicked Clebius went on a rampage. Ed then sighed with relief because his role was now over. He then let himself be hit by Taylor's attack. It made him fall and hit the wall, and made the dust fly. Elvira was dumbfounded by the sudden change. She was surprised why Ed was defeated so easily. The whole floor became a mess due to their battle. After defeating him, Taylor then asked him if he was crazy. He must have a reason to go this far. Elvira really felt icky during the battle. It felt like they were just being deliberately played. If he really wanted to prevent them, he could have done it without showing himself and ambushed them by dropping the candle lamp. But instead he was blatantly standing in front of them and blocking them. There was no sign of carelessness during the battle after that. There was something strange here. Seeing him stop talking, Ed then asked if he was done. If they were done, he then told them to stop babbling and immediately go upstairs. They were then confused to hear that he had been blocking them. Taylor then asked what this meant. With the gloomy atmosphere that engulfed the Awfulest Hall and the patter of rain that fell on the building, Elvira then asked, why did he let them go? Taylor was then surprised to hear her question. He was confused why Elvira said Ed let them go. Elvira ignored Taylor's confusion, feeling angry. She then said that she couldn't just let this pass without knowing what really happened. Seeing him not answering, Elvira then told him to immediately answer her question. Why did he let them go? But there was absolutely no response from Ed. He just looked at her with an apathetic look. Elvira then got angry at that, and in the middle of their argument, the entrance door suddenly opened, and a girl then entered. Camellia's flower hairpin was something that this girl had painstakingly selected all night. Could someone humiliate her pure love by calling it naive? It might have been delusional, but imagining happy thoughts is up to a person's freedom. But the gap between imagination and reality can sometimes be cruel. The boy she thought would appear at the gazebo in a dashing style was instead attacked by a group of brats and lay there covered in blood. A feeling of anger then fell on her when she saw that. She then asked what they had done. When she read the letter, it would be a lie to say that she didn't suspect that something wrong was going on. He might be caught up in something unexpected, but from his simple life to the way he showed himself during the Glaskin showdown, no matter how big or small his job was, Ed Roth Taylor was someone who had created a certain expectation around him that he could solve any problem. Only after being stabbed in the blind spot, someone hidden in complacency would be able to truly reflect on himself. She had said to him, if he had any problems he could talk to her. At that time, she would definitely help him. However, Ed never asked for her help. He made sure to take Janica out of the Awfulest Hall and left an unusual letter. The reason he had to fight here, to the point of bleeding, was because Janica had been subjected to various disciplinary actions due to the Glaskin incident, so she had to be removed from the battlefield. Janica didn't know what really happened. He had taken care of her so that she wouldn't get caught up in the situation, but instead she was busy taking care of her clothes. She then felt guilty and very angry at those who had done such a bad thing to Ed, not knowing the gravity of the situation that was happening to him. Taylor was even grateful to see her not caught in this situation. Now the Awfulest Hall was being occupied by other students. But he thought it would not end like this just like that, seeing Ed go so far to stop them. He was sure there must be something else, seeing Taylor's ignorance. Alvira then immediately told him to realize, she was the enemy. Janica then said, "You know, what exactly are you doing? I'm not even curious at all," and a very powerful burst of energy suddenly appeared from Janica, which made the floor she stepped on crack. Ed then worriedly called out to her when he saw it. Janica then smiled slightly and asked him not to worry. They could only be stunned when they saw it. Feathers suddenly flew in the room where they were, which then turned into a spirit in the form of a bird. Not only that, Janica also summoned all the spirits she contracted. She then asked Ed to wait for a minute. Alvira broke out in a cold sweat when she saw that, for mid-level elemental spirits, besides that, if you add the low-level spirits, then it's like an army. She then invited them to run. She realized that there was no way they could get through this. They couldn't even fight Ed, who was a mere fallen noble, and now, their opponent was the best second-year student of the magic department. But Janica certainly wouldn't let them just run away. She then ordered the spirits to attack them, seeing Taylor who was still being stubborn and wouldn't run. Alvira then told her to quickly come to his senses and accept reality, because all the windows were destroyed. She then invited them to go this way. Taylor actually knew that. He had already realized it through Ed. He felt that this occupation of the Awfulest Hall was something unusual and suspicious, but he couldn't get the thought, there might be students who were harmed, out of his head. He then told Elvira that he couldn't let her precious potion be damaged. Taylor never gave up in his trials. She then worried when she saw him alone about to face the spirits. It was obvious that Taylor would live a life as a protagonist, therefore, he had to leave while he could. Ed then immediately pulled him away when the spirit's attack was about to hit him. He then told him to listen to him carefully. He would take care of Janica, and told them to rush to the second floor as planned. They were then confused to hear that, after blocking them like that before, now he was telling them to go to the second floor. Ed just said that he changed his mind and once again told them to rush to the second floor, but Elvira underestimated that he wanted to stop the spirits alone. His body was covered in wounds at the moment, but Ed suddenly knocked her head, which made her grimace in pain. Ed then told her to get the reagents. He also apologized for tearing her bag, although she still felt confused, but she then complied, and the three of them then headed to the second floor. Amidst Janica's loss of control, she then found her clarity again when she saw Ed in front of her. She then worriedly asked Ed not to push himself too hard. She also told him to stay by her side. She would finish the rest. He could explain the details to her later. First, she would immediately finish this, then take care of him. But before Janica could continue her words further, Ed suddenly called her. Actually, this kind of action is something impolite. But, while holding both of her shoulders, Ed then said that he was fine, so she didn't need to overdo it. Janica was stunned for a moment, then blushed because of that. Janica felt very embarrassed when his hands were on her shoulders. But Ed was completely unaware of that. He then asked Janica to first get rid of the spirits first. The wind was too strong, so he had trouble standing up. Hearing that, Janica then immediately agreed to that. She felt guilty for making Ed have trouble standing up. She also apologized for her behavior. She felt she had done something stupid. Right after Janica got rid of the spirits, the strong wind that hit the whole room suddenly disappeared, and the glass that was flying in the air then fell to the floor. They were then surprised to see that. They were surprised that Ed could really overcome Janica. Ed then sent a signal to them to immediately go upstairs. Maybe there wasn't much time left. But Janica was then surprised when she saw him suddenly fall on the floor. She then worriedly called him. After that, Janica then asked him why he never said anything and got hurt. She had told him to come and talk to her if something happened. Hearing her worries, Ed only said that this time there was a reason. Next time, he promised to tell her everything. When seeing Ed's completely battered state, Janica felt that they had really gone overboard. There should be no reason to attack someone to this extent. She didn't know exactly what happened, but next time when they met, she would be very angry at them. She then asked Ed to promise not to get hurt again. Ed then replied yes. He also thanked her for worrying about him. This was a little different from what he had originally planned, but in the end he had done his part as the first floor boss. Now, he could rest and take care of the work in his camp. And just as he was about to stand up, Janica suddenly said to him, while he was sitting in the rose garden, she saw a very large horse-drawn carriage. It passed by so fast that he couldn't see it clearly, but he saw that there was a golden crown on it. Ed's pupils instantly shrank after hearing that. The golden crown, it was the symbol of the Eltstor, Lortell's adoptive father and the enemy who killed her biological father. The fake boss who was about to leave the stage after being stabbed in the back by Lortell in the events that happened after the residents of Ophelis Hall. The battle for the Sage's Scroll, the Golden King Elt, the fact that he arrived earlier than expected, it meant that something unexpected must have happened. This was completely beyond the scope of his knowledge. The patter of rain was still so heavy outside and soaked the horse carriage that was traveling towards Ophelis Hall. In the hallway of the 5th floor of Ophelis Hall, Lortell quietly observed the horse carriage from behind the window. She then said to Elris that she was dumped. She must also know that person. The person involved is rather nasty and cruel when you first see him. Hearing that, Elris then asked if she meant Ed, the person they met at the camp last time. Lortell confirmed it. Elris was a little surprised. Ed was the kind of person she liked. She just found out, Lortell said. He has a decent appearance, but that doesn't mean anything. The smell she smelled from Elris, she could also smell it from him. But he ended up making a lot of emotional comments. Then, he finally threw it all away without hesitation. People like them live by hearing those words. Elris was the head maid at Ophelis Hall, who had served as a veteran maid for over 20 years. At the age of 15, when she didn't know anything yet, she started her career as an apprentice maid. She later became the manager at Ophelis Hall, as she was known for her abilities that far exceeded her age. Therefore, this was where Lortell invested the most effort. The most amount of money was spent to break Elris' honesty. The amount was enough to leave a big hole, but for Lortell, the expense was not wasted at all. Because she was glad she had Elris by her side. She had seen many people who would break their own beliefs because of being attracted to gold coins, the same race. Only when facing them, she could be free from this loneliness. Among the rows of merchants who risked their lives for a single gold coin or a basket among the slums, it seemed that it was because she lived a life where she would be stabbed to death if she didn't stab someone in the back first. But, Lortell then said to him, at this time, Will Rain, the lower-ranked student representative, would occupy the 4th floor management office. If he gave up possession of the defense magic circle at the right time, then, one way or another, Ophelis Hall would be destroyed. Regardless of her unfortunate past and the circumstances that pushed him into a corner, this person was clearly a villain, and the black curtain behind the scenes, the situation seemed to be going according to plan, so she decided to stay here alone. In the storage room, she had to act like a good student, who was just afraid of the situation that was happening and didn't know what was going on. That's why she would hide here. Elris could only sigh at that. What a pitiful human being. She then took out her sword from its sheath. She said she would tell her something. She then pointed her sword at Lortell's neck, and said that she was not someone like her, a girl her age, had never loved anyone, or had someone like a family who could open her heart, and would die in solitude.